Good morning, everyone. We are going to get started, so I'm just going to ask everyone to please take a seat. We're going to try to get some additional seats out as well. So once again, good morning, and welcome to the Queens District Attorney's Office's National Crime Victims' Rights Week ceremony. Before we begin our program, I'm going to ask everyone to please stand for our National Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem, led by Emma Schoaf and Linnea Burrows.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, they paved through the night, and our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Excellent. And thank you for the round of applause. You may be seated. I am now going to ask you to join me in welcoming Rabbi Daniel from the Regal Park Jewish Center, who will lead us in the invocation. I have failed in my first duty as Master of Ceremonies. Please rise for the invocation.
I'm sorry I'm making you all stand. But we have gathered here today on this National Crime Victims' Rights Week to know the importance of helping crime survivors find their justice. We start with, dear God, you created us in your own image and likeness, but sin has warped the mind of men here and everywhere. There is much injustice and much carelessness of the rights of other people. But amid this despair, we stand in love and justice for those who could not stand for themselves. We pause here to remember those who have lost their lives to violence, victims of every manner of abuse. And we pause to remember the communities who are left to mourn. We pray for those who have suffered a grave injustice, for those who have had something precious taken, broken, destroyed. And therefore we pray for justice, healing, reparation, and reconciliation for all victims of crime. Help us to understand and help the wounded, bind up their wounds, and give them all they need to get better instead of bitter. And we pray for these souls that the loss which cannot be replaced will be filled with a miracle of comfort. You know, when one of us is hurting after a robbery, a rape, or a murder, we all hurt as a community. So we pray that all offenders make amends for the harm they caused with restitution and reparation. And that we, your people, O God, will do all we can to make righteousness flow like a never-ending stream. We pray, O Lord, that you will right all the wrongs that are taking place in our world and vindicate those that are being treated unjustly. And in the words of Alan Paton, says, O Lord, open my eyes that I may see the need of others. Open my ears that I may hear their cries. Open my heart that they need not be without succor. Let me not be afraid to defend the weak and the poor because of the anger of the strong and the rich. Show me where love and faith and hope are needed, and use me to bring them to these places. And so open my eyes and my ears that I may thus see this coming day and be able to do some work of peace for thee. May hate be replaced with love, violence with peace, and darkness with your light, so that one day we might live in our beautiful country, not consumed by violence and hatred, that one day we might live in love and neighborliness, and that peace might be with us all over again. And let us say, Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Can you hear me? Excellent. Thank you, Rabbi Daniel, for the beautiful invocation. And good morning to all who have gathered here today. My name is Aisha Green, and I am the Bureau Chief of the Queens County District Attorney's Office's Rehabilitation Programs and Restorative Services Bureau. Today, I have the distinct honor of being your Master of Ceremonies as we gather to observe National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Since 1981, a week in April has been dedicated to National Crime Victims' Rights Week and is celebrated across the United States. During this time, communities are informed of our commitment to serving all victims of crimes, survivors, and families, acknowledging the achievements in victim services and allied professions, as well as centering and remembering the stories of crime victims and survivors. Since 2007, we have held a ceremony for National Crime Victims' Rights Week here at the Queens County District Attorney's Office. The Crime Victims Advocates Program began this tradition as a way of cultivating relationships between the office and the broader Queens community. This year, we celebrate the theme of rights, access, and equity for all victims, underscoring the importance of helping crime survivors find their justice by enforcing victims' rights, expanding access to services, and ensuring equity and inclusion for all. Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz has made these values central to the core of our office's operations. As District Attorney, she brings a steady, community-centered approach to many of our divisions, bureaus, units, and programs available for those victimized by crime. A lifelong resident of the borough, District Attorney Melinda Katz has seen the many changes that have taken place as we've become a more cosmopolitan and diverse community, while still remaining the family-oriented values that have always defined us. Working with our communities to manage these new challenges, District Attorney Katz knows that strong local engagement brings innovative ideas and creates a partnership that produces real results with a victim-focused vision. It is a vision of brave justice, one that upholds a simple principle. Whatever your situation, background, immigration status, or economic means, whatever your gender identification or sexual orientation, justice must always look the same. Please join me in welcoming Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz.
Can we give a round of applause to Aisha for the work she did on today and all that she does for our victims and our families and defendants? So first of all, thank you all for coming out today. I want the victims that are here today and represented to know especially that this is an event that we did no press release for. We did not invite the outside public. This is not about anything except building the trust between the ADAs and the people that work in our office and the support staff that makes our office run, and the victims that we are standing up for every single day. The victims and their families that we all service, that Aisha services with her group, and they do it so well. And I want to thank the Crime Victims Advocates Program and the people that are in it for all the work that they do every day to make sure that victims know they're never alone, because that's what this is about. You know, there's a lot of talk out there in the press about prosecuting and should we prosecute and gun violence and all that is going on out there. And I do feel like at times we need to hear the victims' voices more. And that's what this is really about. So we have here today members of the office, and I do want to thank especially the ADAs and the support staff and everyone that has come out for this today. It is important to me that we have a showing at these types of events when we are showing unity. So I appreciate your presence here today. I want to thank Carolyn Dixon, who we're going to hear from in a minute, and I will introduce the parents of murdered children who are here, PMOC, the Queens chapter, Frank Sinatra School of Arts, who I love, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, Rabbi Daniel from the Rego Park Jewish Center, who I've known since I was like 5, I feel like, Father Patrick Henry Longalong from Our Lady of Lourdes, and Elisa Ortiz, who is representing the victims of crimes here today. And we want to thank her for telling her story and being an advocate for those that come after her. Elisa, we understand that you are a leader in a club that no one wants to be a part of. And you do it with style and you do it with grace. And we thank you for allowing us to be here today to share your story. We also have members of all of our bureaus. I do want to acknowledge the executive staff that's here. Of course, Jennifer Nyberg, Chief Assistant. You will hear from her in a second. Camille Chinkifat, who is our Chief of Staff. John Castellano, Counsel to the DA. Colleen Babb, the Executive over Community Partnerships. Jerry Brave, Executive ADA of Investigations. Vinnie Carroll, Counsel to Chief ADA. Dan Saunders, Executive ADA of Major Crimes, or as I like to call him, the last man standing from the previous administration. Johnette Trail, and who's Appeals, and Peshoy Yacob, Executive ADA over Supreme Court. So when I got sworn in on January 1st, 2020, you remember that day, bail laws changed, discovery laws changed, we got rid of the waiver policy on 18080. It was a piece of cake, right? Like that. I made a lot of promises and I had a vision for this office. And the vision for this office was to make sure that we go after drivers of crime, that we prosecute those that are drivers, those that would bring our young people into the crime, and make sure that we make our streets safe. But when you read the newspapers these days, you would think that you can't do that while still making the court system fair and equitable. We are all here to say that you can have fair and equity in the court system while having safe streets. Those two are not mutually exclusive. And I'm out there every single day when I meet victims of crimes that work with our office, and when I meet those that we are helping in the Domestic Violence Bureau, those that we are helping because they're afraid of the gang activity in the community, but they came forward anyway. Those that we are helping get out of the human trafficking that they feel like they are trapped in and can't move out of. Those that are simply getting menaced in their community, and an ADA listened and said, we understand, let's figure out how we can help you with this problem. Even if prosecution may not be a way to go about it, we are here to make sure that you have a voice. And those were issues that came up the first few years that I was here. All of you in this room make it happen every single day. And I want to thank you for doing that in our community. Today we have a lot of people represented. We have the Special Victims Bureau that's represented. They deal with the horrible crimes of sexual abuse and physical abuse of children, violence against the elderly. The Queens Child Advocacy Center is also represented here, where all child sexual and physical abuse cases are handled, and handled well every single day. When you specialize in working on these types of cases, how important it is that we do remember the victims, and we do remember the families that will have to pick up the pieces along the way as well. The Domestic Violence Bureau, of course, continues to work with the mayor's office and takes a coordinated effort and approach to working with the families and the victims as well. And of course, hate crimes. When you are targeted because of your religion and because of your ethnic background or because who you choose to love, it is even a second crime in people's minds. And we treat them as hate crimes, we prosecute them as hate crimes, and when they are in hate crimes, we still prosecute the underlying crime to make sure that victims know that we are there and that won't be tolerated in the borough of Queens County, and that there are consequences for acts along the way. Consequences and accountability. And accountability can take a whole bunch of roads, right? Accountability could be jail, and accountability could be diversion programs, or accountability could be anger management, or mental health services, or drug abuse services. And we all know that. And of course, our homicide unit, dedicated entirely to investigating and solving so many of the crimes throughout this borough, where the victims can't speak for themselves. And we have to do it. And we do it every day, and we do it well. And of course, our cold case unit, because unless you get crimes that are closed, you never get any closure from the emotional state of a family. And, you know, as all of you know, we just found the murderer of a World War I veteran. It's hard to come off my tongue. World War I veteran who was killed, I think it was 45 years ago. And the bones were found in the back, and the cold case unit used forensics to find out who the victim was first, and investigated and found the murderer, and years later, decades later, held them accountable. So I appreciate everyone being here today. It means a lot to us and to this office. We do our jobs every day. That's all we do. But our jobs are important to the people of Queens County, important to me. Thank you so much for the service of the ADAs and the whole office that you give to this borough. And to the victims that are here and the victims' families, we will always be here for you. We will always be your voice when you can't find someone else to be your voice. We will always be here for the support that this office can give you. And it is what we do, it is how we do it, and we'll continue to do it. So thank you for coming out today. Now, I get to introduce Carolyn Dixon. Carolyn Dixon has been a long friend for a long time, an old friend for a long time. She is the CEO of Where Do We Go From Here? Her son, also, she is in a club that nobody wants to be a part of. Daryl, May 5th, anniversary is coming up, 2014. Lost her son to gun violence and has been speaking out and helping other parents and family deal with this gun violence and those murders that happen because of it ever since her family became a victim to it. So I introduce Carolyn Dixon.
Love and blessings, everyone. It's an honor to be here today, and I love Melinda Katz. And there is nothing that I will not do for Melinda Katz when she calls. Like she said, our Queens district attorneys are here for our Queens family. A lot of people don't understand that the first course of healing is having a DA that you can rely on, who understand the trauma that we are going through. And the DAs that I have, and I know I'm going to get a call either May 4th or May 6th from the DAs who handled my son's case. When my son was murdered in front of me over a parking incident, I couldn't understand it. The first thing I asked my mom is, where do we go from here? And she said, live. I didn't understand that. How do we live after your child, your loved one has been murdered? I was fortunate enough to attend the new school where I learned about healing and trauma. And I brought that back into the South Jamaica area to my Black and brown people because we don't know about healing. We don't understand trauma. So I opened my own organization called Where Do We Go From Here? We have healing circles. We go on trips to learn how to live our new lives without our children. Melinda Katz has always been there. Maria, your team is marvelous because I can call any time a family has been affected by gun violence to try to get burial assistance, counseling, whatever I need for that family, it is given without a doubt. Queens is #1 in my book when it comes to helping survivors. We have a lot of survivors in here today. If it wasn't for Queens DA, the Queens DA, doing what they had to do in order to help us, we would have been lost. So I put Queens as #1 when it comes to helping and supporting families of crime victims. We are #1 in the book. Other boroughs have complained that they do not have that bond with their DA. I told them, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All I can tell you to do is move to Queens because you're guaranteed the services you need in order to move on towards your healing process. I can't stay long. Melinda Katz know why. I have to run. I love you all. We're gonna have a barbecue on South Jamaica on 107th Avenue on August 8th, which is my son's birthday. I feed the community every year. May 5th is his anniversary of his death. I will have a paint and sip on May 7th for the children who have been affected by gun violence in our community. Much love and blessings to all. I love you. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, District Attorney Katz, and thank you, Ms. Dixon. We will be there for the barbecue. I now have the distinct honor of introducing Chief Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Nyberg. Before she makes her way to the stage, I'd like to say that Chief Nyberg is a 27-year veteran of the Queens County District Attorney's Office. She has held numerous positions within the office, including the Director of Special Projects and Major Case Advisor, Deputy Director of Trial Advocacy, Bureau Chief of the Felony Trial Bureau, and several other management positions. Chief Nyberg developed and implemented an office-wide system to assist prosecutors in fulfilling their legal and ethical obligations, and served on mayoral and citywide groups preparing for recent criminal justice reforms. She continues to lead this office with unwavering dedication, remaining resolute in ensuring justice for the families of Queens County. Please join me in welcoming Chief Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Nyberg.
Good morning, everyone. I am not going to, I promise myself, take for granted that we are all here in person enjoying all these events. It is so nice to see you here. None of us should take it for granted. I thank you for joining all of us in observation of National Crime Victims' Rights Week. This week, as you've already heard, is a platform for victims. It's a platform for survivors, for their voices to be heard, for their voices to be lifted up, for their survival, for the family's survival to be celebrated. Many of you in this room, and I see lots of staff in all forms from the Queens DA's office, many of you in this room are committed to serving victims every day. You're committed to public service, to serving the public, to serving crime victims. It's your bread and butter. This week, all of us who do that on a daily basis, we are asked to pause, and we should. We should pause and we should reflect on what we do, why we do it, and we should renew our commitment. For our victims who are here, who are represented, we pause and we reflect on what you've gone through this week. We reaffirm that we see you. We reaffirm that we hear you. We respect you and we support you. Now, as prosecutors, victims advocates, detectives, investigators, support staff, we are frequently reminded of the roles we play in the lives of individuals, of families, in the community that are experiencing their darkest hours. It's a unique position that we find ourselves in on a regular basis. It's both sensitive and significant. Frankly, I've always thought it to be a privilege. It is a privilege to play the role that we play in people's lives in that dark hour. And with that privilege comes a tremendous responsibility. We see and feel the humanity behind the court process. That vantage point is a privilege. Throughout my 28, not 27, I'm getting older before your eyes, 28 years as a prosecutor, my tenure in this office, there have been major cases and issues, and they rightfully capture the headlines, they capture the heads and the hearts of the public. But it is often the most compelling stories are the silent stories of the families that we serve. And in my mind, those stories, those experiences, those interactions over the years, not the headlines, those have been the most memorable. I remember being a prosecutor like this morning's honoree, Courtney Finnerty. I remember being a prosecutor in the Homicide Trial Bureau. And I share this story because I carry it with me to this day, that in the same week, I met two mothers in a span of just a few days. Both mothers had lost their children to senseless violence. I recall the mothers' pleas, and I remember meeting with them on the 8th floor of 8002, where our Homicide Bureau still resides, in the conference room. I recall the mothers' pleas. They came with their family. One spoke to me in Mandarin. I don't speak Mandarin. The other spoke to me in Spanish, and I am not fluent in Spanish. One of them fell to her knees while she communicated with me. Both in that room, both brought surviving children to translate for them. Two entirely different cases, two entirely different, forever impacted, grieving mothers. And while I didn't speak their languages, I didn't, but I did. I understood the weight of each word they spoke and the reality that they were going through. They both wanted to be heard. They both begged to be heard. They both begged for justice. Recently, very recently, a couple weeks ago, I reached out to an ADA who got a guilty verdict in a murder case that she was trying. I'd seen some of the case and she did a bang-up job. I reached out to her to congratulate her, tell her justice was served and how happy I was, and she wrote back to me in an email. She told me in that email that the mother of the victim in that case told her that the night of that verdict was the first time in 2.5 years that she had slept peacefully. The assistant went on to tell me that that reminds her why we do what we do. I also, probably within the same week recently, reached out to one of our other prosecutors who had tried a case with everything she had, and in this case, she didn't get the results she wanted. She didn't get a conviction. She told me, in response to an email I sent to her, it hurts, that she put her heart and soul into it. And she said, and I'm continually learning from all of you, she said significantly that no matter the result, her conversations with the victim post-verdict were showing her that sometimes it's not about the result, but it's about the journey. She told me that she is stronger for having gone through it, the victim, and for confronting her abuser. What are these stories? These aren't stories. These are real-life incidents that I'm conveying to you. But what do they teach us? That the face of justice is multifaceted. Its features are not limited in form to a verdict, but they're much more expansive. Justice is about being heard. It's about healing. It's about overcoming. It's about finding, by the grace of God, some measure of closure. Today, let us all in this room who do this kind of work for a living recommit ourselves in honor of all the victims to the important work of supporting victims' rights and creating a safer, stronger, just future for the families of Queens County. I thank you.
Thank you, Chief Nyberg, for those moving words. I now have the honor of welcoming Alyssa Ortiz, who has joined us this morning to share her story and speak on behalf of the many families and survivors who have gathered with us today. Please welcome Ms. Ortiz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elise Ortiz. I'm here today because my family and I experienced the loss of an extraordinary person in our lives due to homicide. I lost my husband, Travis Ford. He was a phenomenal father, son, brother, friend, and just overall a great person in society. We lost the most genuine, selfless, kind, loving person. It's quite questionable and puzzling when you lose someone tragically due to murder. Although as a family we live with grief due to our loss, we continue to live on strong, for that is what Travis was and would want us to do. We continue to live on with smiles and laughter, which Travis would like us to do as we continue to reminisce with all the good memories that he has imprinted in our hearts. I must give it to the Queens Criminal District Attorney's Office. This line of work is unimaginably complex. I want to give a special thanks to Courtney Finnerty, and her team for helping me and the family during this trial, which wasn't easy for anyone. To take on this type of case, I'm honestly impressed. It's beyond complex because you're often working on a case and the victim is deceased and can't speak for themselves. Courtney did such an outstanding job with this case. She wasn't only professional and knowledgeable, but also very empathetic and went above and beyond to help me and the family during an emotional trial while obtaining justice for Travis. Having Courtney with your office, I know she will continue to bring justice to victims and their families. Courtney will always have a special place in my heart. My most challenging case is proof of what she is capable of and brings to the legal community. I want to also thank Emily, who was first assigned to my case, who I first met during the case because she actually reached out to me when the case was over, and that really touched my heart. Thank you, Genevieve, the most helpful person I met during this trial. Who we all love so much. You guys can't lose her. Having her on your team is a success. Thank you, Erin. I don't think she's here today, but she also assisted and sat through the court alongside Courtney, and she was accommodating as well. I want to say one more necessary thank you is to the Crime Victim Advocate Program. They continuously reached out to me and referred me to so many resources and have continued to help my daughters and I after our loss. You guys are such a great team that supports each other and has made a significant impact in a positive way during a tragic, unexpected change in my life. Thank you so much. I'm sending everyone love, strength, and health during this time. Thank you.
I want to take a minute to thank Ms. Ortiz again for sharing her story with us. I am now going to introduce to you the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts. They will perform today Dolly Parton's Light of a Clear Blue Morning. Please join me in welcoming them.
It's been a long, dark night, and I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, but I see a brand new day dawning. I've been looking for the sunshine, I ain't seen it in so long. Everything's gonna work out fine. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright, it's gonna be okay. I can see the light, see the light, brand new day. Clear blue morning, clear blue morning, morning.
I am now going to welcome to the stage District Attorney Melinda Katz for the presentation of our award to our honoree.
Before I make the presentation to Courtney, I want to acknowledge, I left out a few acknowledgements. First of all, Danny O'Brien, our acting chief of our investigators, always there for us, and we thank them for the work that they do, our detective investigators. I want to thank Jackie Rosado, who has taken up the head of the civic awareness. There's a thing about that, civic awareness, and I appreciate that. She does all the community boards, she does the events, I appreciate that. I want to thank Chris Policano, who works as the Chief Information Officer, Anna Sokol, who just got promoted to Senior Media Advisor. A lot of people who put a lot of time into this event. And I know you heard from the Chief Assistant. I just want to make sure we acknowledge properly Camille Chinkifat, who runs the office so that we can do what we need to do and not worry about the office, and we thank you for that. It is now my honor, and of course to Elisa, thank you for your kind words very much. We are now here to give an honor to ADA Courtney Finnerty. So Courtney, I so rarely get that type of applause. I'm going to do it again. We're now here to honor Courtney Finnerty. But clearly I want to thank all the ADAs that every single day help our victims. And with all of the extra burdens that are put upon us with the new laws and all of the advocacy we have to do out there, but with the gun initiative, with the discovery laws, with everything that we do, we know it got a little more difficult than it used to be with administrative issues. And yet you do it every single day through COVID, through new laws, through everything. But today, Courtney, you're representative today of the ADAs that we wish to thank for their hard work. Courtney Finnerty has served as an ADA since 2007 in the Queens County office. After obtaining a double major in criminology and criminal justice and sociology from the University of Maryland, Courtney graduated from the Maurice A. Dean School of Law at Hofstra University. She spent the last 15 years advancing through the office and has spent time in various bureaus, including Criminal Court, Felony Trial Bureau 1, and Career in C.C. McBee. She is presently a senior ADA in the Homicide Bureau, where she handles the county's most complex and devastating cases from arrest through sentencing. Courtney is heavily involved in the office's training program, important to look at the next generation that's coming up. The mentorship program, the office's annual mock trial competition, incoming ADA interviews, and gives lectures to younger assistants. She is married with 3, it says wonderful. Are they wonderful? They must be wonderful. Huh? Mostly? Mine too, mostly. She's married to Matthew Melford, 3 wonderful children. Please join me in congratulating Senior ADA Courtney Finnerty. Courtney, on behalf of Chief Assistant Jen Nyberg, on behalf of Camille Chinkifat and all the executives and all of the assistant district attorneys and the entire office that is here to show you support and to show our victims support, this is an award honoring Courtney Finnerty, Senior. I can't read without my, it's a glass thing. They do this on purpose, just so I have a problem doing it. Double glass. Courtney Finnerty, Senior Assistant District Attorney, Homicide, National Crime Victims' Rights Week 2020. Congratulations and keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, aside from a few short months in college where I thought that I was going to be a mechanical engineer, this is all I have ever wanted to do. And it turns out that I'm actually not very good at calculus, so it was actually not that hard of a decision. But in all seriousness, this is the only job I have ever wanted. This job, to me, meant that you got to wear the white hat. You got to help people. You got to do actual good and help people get through some of the most traumatizing moments of their lives. And so while I am very appreciative to be receiving this award today, I really am, thank you so much. The people that we're really honoring today are the people like Elisa and all of you out there who are part of that awful club. I want to just talk for a moment about the courage and the bravery that you all demonstrate and the reason why we are here celebrating all of you. It's not, because it's not about me, it is all about you guys. The amount of dedication, courage, and just heart that it takes to go through what you have gone through, to have suffered whatever traumatic event that you've had, have lost the love of your life or child, and then have to come in and participate in this court procedure. And I say participate, and you know, it's kind of like a throwaway word. It sounds meaningless, but the reality is that it is not, because you have this very emotionally draining situation that has happened to you. And then you come in here and you sit with us and you have to detail it over and over and over again. And then you have to come into a courtroom and take a witness stand and tell a complete group of strangers that you've never seen before some of the most vulnerable moments of your lives and let them judge you. And to do that, to be able to stare that in the face and overcome any sort of fear or nervousness takes an amount of bravery that most people can't even comprehend. And so while I am truly very, very appreciative of this award, thank you, it is not for me. It is in recognition of all of you, for people like Elisa, who, she mentioned earlier, her husband Travis was murdered on the day that she actually gave birth to their second daughter by her father. And she came in and it was beautiful. She was nervous, it wasn't easy, but she fought through that and she was incredibly brave, just as I'm sure all of you have been. And so I thank you. Sorry, I'm just turning the page here. But she's not the only one, and you all are the ones who are deserving of the recognition here. I want to thank you, DA Katz, and DAs Ryan and Brown before you, as well as Chief Assistant Nyberg here, for allowing me to do this job. I know you mentioned it is a privilege, and that is exactly what it is. It has been my utmost privilege to serve in this capacity for the last 15 years. It is, like I said, all I have ever wanted to do, and it's just so meaningful and so rewarding. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to continue doing that. To that end, I have been fortunate enough to been exposed to some of the most prestigious and talented, not only attorneys, but humans that I can think of in this line of work. And I just want to take a moment and thank my bosses, John Kaczynski, Pete McCormick, Karen Ross, Bob Ciesla, as well as the entire group of detective investigators, paralegal support staff, and a special shout out to Genevieve back there. All of you, I don't know how we could possibly do this job without you. You are an infinite source of support, and it's just, you're just so wonderful. The entire staff on 8, I applaud you. I also want to thank the team at Crime Victims. I know you all know this, but they are just such a wonderful agency, and they really go above and beyond for all of the crime victims that we come into contact here. They have counseling services, housing assistance. I can't even tell you the amount of times that people have come over to translate for victims' families while sitting in the pews, just so they know what's going on in their court case, in their family's court case. I want to thank you. I want to thank my husband. He's the handsome guy, like right back there. And my parents, who are all here. All of you have been an incredibly supportive system. I can't imagine being able to do this job and be on trial and handle these cases and being there for the victims of crimes without you guys, so thank you. But lastly, I want to thank all of you because you all are what makes us want to do this job and makes us have meaning. You know, it's you all. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Elisa. I love you. And thanks, that's it.
We always make one mistake, but I want to thank, first of all, Courtney, thank you so much for those great words and the work that you do. But, you know, I do want to thank John and Pete. You know, the Homicide Bureau, as you know, went through changes over the last year or so, and for the work that they do every single day in making sure that that bureau runs well, efficiently, and very, you know, making sure that all the victims that go through there have a voice. But I also want to thank Dan Saunders, the executive over Major Crimes, who really is with me on the phone almost every night, every time of the day. 7 in the morning, he's usually in the gym when I call, but yes, you know, he is on the phone all the time to make sure that all of the bureaus are running well. But thank you so much for the leadership that has stepped up to the plate over the last year in homicide. Congrats.
Congratulations again, Courtney. Now I'm going to bring up Maria Pinto. She is one of our advocates, and she's been with our office for about 18 years. And I would be remiss if I did not thank her for all of her efforts in putting together today's ceremony. So if we can give her a round of applause and working with community partnerships.
Thank you all for attending our annual National Crime Victims' Rights Week ceremony. My name is Maria Pinto, and I'm a crime victim advocate here at the Queens District Attorney's Office. I have worked as an advocate for our Crime Victims Advocate program for the past 18 years. And through those years, I have witnessed the vulnerability, pain, trauma, and uncertainty innocent crime victims face. This is also true for those who have lost loved ones as a result of a violent crime. As an advocate, we understand the importance of having someone to support you through the most difficult time of your life. We work hands-on by providing grieving families with much needed resources, like crime scene cleanup, assistance with funeral expenses, counseling, support groups, court transportation, and court accompaniment. The services to other types of victims also include assistance with completing the OBS application and Section 8, among other services. One of the groups that I've been fortunate enough to work with is Parents of Murdered Children. The Queens chapter POMC is joining us today. They're right over there. Thank you, ladies. They are a true example of strength, resiliency, love, and support. It's amazing to watch a group of individuals who have endured such loss supporting each other through their grief. They are a perfect example of kindness and welcome new members with open arms to a group that no one chooses to be a part of. Anyone fortunate enough to learn about their journey will be lifted and inspired by their grace. They know much too well, as many of you who have lost loved ones through violence. They understand that the pain will never subside. It's not something you ever get over, but you move through it to find healing. One of the ways we do so is to never forget the special people who have made such a huge impact on our lives. At this time, let us reflect and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to crime.
We have reached the conclusion of our program, but I want to thank the Crime Victims Advocates Program and all of the advocates for all that you do, for when people come to us and how you meet them with grace and understanding. I would now like to welcome Father Patrick Henry Longalong to the stage from Our Lady of Lourdes Roman Catholic Church for our benediction. I was supposed to ask you to stand.
My sisters and brothers, people and families are no longer the same once they have been touched by crime, especially violent crime. Many look for answers, but how can we make sense of the suffering inflicted to us by another? Somehow we are left with loss, pain, fear, and no means to move forward. During this National Crime Victims' Rights Week, all of us are called to bring compassion, comfort, and consolation to those whose futures are uncertain and who battle in their hearts anger, uncertainty, and fear. This week is a reminder for us to focus our attention on the needs of our sisters and brothers who have been impacted by crime during the year and the years before, often at a loss, embarrassed, or angry. There are times when crime victims may be reluctant to let others know what has happened to them or to express their need for help. There are many who sit in our congregations holding on to what little is left of their faith and hoping against hope that something will come through. It is a lonely and painful journey. These past couple of years in the pandemic made us realize the importance of community. The isolation experienced by many people around the world reflects the experience of those affected by crime in our society. Many grieve in silence, which is why, as a community, we should try to extend the best we can to visibly provide comfort and hope and healing. One way we can do this is through praying together as a community. And so we unite now our hearts to heaven in prayer. God, our Creator, God of justice and life, look with tender mercy upon the multitudes of our day who bear the indignities of injustice everywhere. Raise up leaders in every land dedicated to your standards of order, equity, and justice. Grant unto us, O Lord, the grace to be worthy members of your mystical body, laboring unceasingly to fulfill our call to enrich each other's lives. Sharpen our intellects to pierce the pettiness of prejudice, to perceive the beauty of true human relationship. Guide our minds to a meaningful understanding of the problems of the poor, of the oppressed, of the unemployed, of all in need of assistance anywhere. Guide our hearts against the subtle lure of earthly things and undue regard for those who possess them. May we hunger and thirst after justice always and uphold the dignity of human life. We present you all our prayers, including those we keep in the silence of our hearts, as we say, Amen.
So thank you again for joining us. There are some refreshments that are in the back if you would like to stick around. Thank you.